it's Ashley and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about one of your most asked questions, which is what are all these Cricut machines and what's the difference between them? This is something that people ask me quite often because they're trying to make a decision between all three machines and to decide which one is right for them based on functionality and price point. So I'm going to walk you through step by step so that you know the differences between each one of them and you can make an informed decision. If you haven't yet, make sure to click the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos and content related to Cricut machines and design space like a pro. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's get started by talking about the three separate machines in front of me. They are the latest offering from Cricut. This is the Cricut Explore Air 2, the Cricut Joy, and the Cricut Maker. And I'm going to break it down for you chronologically so we can talk about the updates and upgrades that Cricut has made over time. Cricut has been making machines for quite a long time. They have a really great reputation within the crafting community. And the older one is the Cricut Explore Air 2. This was the update to the Cricut Explore Air series, and this cuts twice as fast as the Cricut Explore Air. The main difference with this one is this is considered the mid-range machine between the three that are listed here. So we'll start out with the price. The Cricut Joy is $179.99 online. The Cricut Explore Air 2 is $249.99 online, and then the Cricut Maker is $399 online. However, you can find a ton of sales and information about them online. Check out the links in the description box. I will leave you all the information for sales in case you're interested in, as well as coupon codes. I am a Cricut partner, so I will leave any discounts or information I have below for you. So let's go ahead and talk about the Explore Air 2 series. One of the things that I really love about this is a really great beginner-friendly machine. It has a ton of features available to it. Specifically, the color range I think is so pretty. The most options for colors for the machines is in the Cricut Explore Air 2 series. You can choose anything from pastels all the way to very bright, vibrant colors, or you can go with a very classic like pearl or black, just depending on if you want to match it to your room that you're working with. So let's talk about what this can do. The Cricut Explore Air 2 can cut, draw, and write, and it can cut over 100 materials, which is pretty revolutionary. I think that is amazing. It provides very detailed cuts on what you're working with, and I would say that this one is primarily a machine if you like to do paper crafting, if you like to work with vinyl, iron-on vinyl, any type of thing where you're working with like light to medium weight material. I think this is amazing. This one can also work with thicknesses up to 2 millimeters thick, which is really great. I use it for faux leather and medium weight materials quite often. So if you're a type of crafter who wants to just get started and get into creating with vinyl especially and cardstock, this machine is amazing. It offers you a ton of the different options at a very reasonable price point. Especially this machine, because it has been around for a little bit longer, it's very tried and true, it's tested, they know it works really well, and they run sales on it constantly. So this is a really great one to pick up. The main difference between this and the other machines is that this one still has a knob that you have to use to turn it when you're selecting the material. You can set it to custom and then insert the settings that you want it cut on. You will also find the Explore Air 2 has a cartridge system where you can insert the cartridges straight into the machine. So if you're upgrading from an older machine to a newer machine, this will allow you to insert the cartridges straight into the machine and work with it in the software. So I find that really handy, especially if you're upgrading. There is a storage container along the top of this one, and you can insert your little tools in there. I sometimes add pens to keep them handy here. Also, there are two storage containers within the Explorer 2 series. There's a magnetic storage container as well as a longer tool storage container. And there are two tool features on this. The left-hand side is where you insert the pen. So you just take your pen and it has a little arrow and you just click that in. and then it's ready to go to draw or write for you on your materials. And then on this side is where you insert your cutting tools. There are 3 different blades that you can use on the Cricut Explore Air 2, and the blades that you can use for this one are the fine point blade, which comes standard. You can also use the deep point blade, which is the black housing blade, and this cuts through thicker materials. And then you can use the pink fine point blade, which will look very similar to this, but it's pink. So the bonded fabric blade can be used to cut materials that have fabric that has already been bonded to interfacing. So that's a great way if you're working on a project that you need some fabric or something for. As long as you're using interfacing, you can still cut it, and that way it works with this particular system. So let's talk about the Cricut Maker. The Cricut Maker is the update that builds on all of the work of the Explorer 2 and adds to it. So you're going to find it has all the same functionalities of the Explorer 2, but with more additions to it. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the physicality of the machine. This machine is a very sleek machine. It has a standard white base, and then it has a really pretty update for colors. So while the Explore Air 2 series has the most color options, this is a very sleek machine. This is also heavier, and that's because of the internals. We'll talk about that a little bit more. It also has, as you've probably noticed, this little stand in here that you can use for your tablet or you can use for your phone. This is a great way to work on a project and have your project stay easy to access, but you can also charge your devices with this. So I'm using currently a USB cable to charge in using my Cricut Maker. So I have my phone attached to it, and then I can just work on my project and keep my phone charged and plugged in at the same time. Both machines use Bluetooth technology, so because of that, you don't have to worry about being next to your machine while you're working on it or connected to it, but that's just a nice feature in case you want to charge at the same time. There's also 2 separate areas right here just for storage. So I have this full-size storage for my pens. In this one, it is smaller, so it's a half-size storage container, and then you can put your tools in here as well. There is a pocket here in the front for your tools. You can install full-size tools inside of here, as well as a magnetic strip. So this pocket's a little bit larger on the Maker versus the Explorer Air 2. There is no area to install cartridges, so you do have to buy an adapter if you have an older machine and you're worried about cartridges. Let's talk about the way that you use the machine. So on the Explorer Air 2, there is a knob here to set what pressure and settings you're working with, such as paper and vinyl. On the Maker, there is no knob. It is just flat buttons that you use to turn on the machine, load the item in the machine, tell the machine to get going, or stop the project. So that makes it a very sleek, easy to use machine. All the settings for which material you're using are set within the software. So let's talk about how the machine functions. As you notice on the Explorer 2, you can use a pen. You can use the same pens or markers inside the Cricut Maker, and it works perfectly for drawing or writing. There's also this side here, and this has the same abilities to work with the same blades as the Explorer Air 2. You can use the fine point blade, which comes standard. You can also use the deep point blade for cutting heavier and thicker materials, or the bonded fabric blade, which is the pink blade. However, it also has an adaptive tool system, and the adaptive tool system gives you ability to expand the amount of materials that you can work with, as well as giving you options to improve on those. So you can draw, write, and cut up to 300 or more materials, but also you can do more with it. So it's not just drawing, it's not just writing, it's not just cutting. You can also engrave, you can deboss. So debossing is when you push on something to make an indentation in the material, so it gives you a really nice pressure on the material for your design. You can use the wavy blade. The wavy blade, or tip I should say, the wavy tip gives you a wavy edge to cardstock or paper that you're working with. You can use the rotary blade, and the rotary blade comes standard for cutting out fabric, so it's really great if you are a sewer or a quilter. You can use that all the time. You can also use the tips such as the scoring tips. There are 2 of them for very crisp folds if you're creating boxes or if you're creating any type of paper crafting. You can also use the Perforation Blade, and the Perforation Blade makes tear-away strips so that you can make with cards like little areas where you can have them tear it away and it reveals a little surprise, which I love. I think those turn out so well. You can also use the knife blade as well, and the knife blade cuts through the very thick materials to make puzzles, cut out words, anything like that that you're interested in. So there are so many options available. In fact, I have a ton of different blades here. Cricut also is continuing to make new tips and blades for the machine, and because of the higher force cutting pressure on this, 4,000 grams versus the Explorer 2's 400, you can work with a wider range of materials and you can make really intricate, well-placed cuts and details to those designs. So I find this a really versatile machine, especially if you like crafting with just about anything. So let's talk about the Cricut Joy. So looking at the functionality and the features of all 3 machines, it's easy to fall in love with any of them. The 100 material options for the Explorer Air 2 and the 300 material options for the Maker, it's easy to get lost in those and just think of all the possibilities. But I want to talk about the newest machine from Cricut, and this one is tiny. As you can see, the differences between the size of the machine is amazing. This is the Cricut Joy, and I think it is aptly named because the Cricut Joy is really the most fun to craft with, especially if you are new to crafting and you're not sure about how to work with machines. This is a really great introduction, and let's talk a little bit about how it's designed. So this machine was 5 years in the making for Cricut, and the reason that it took so long to develop, they had this idea 5 years ago. They spent all this time just refining it and refining it and refining it because they wanted to make sure that it was perfect. So what makes this one so different from the others? I would say first, the size. It is a tiny, well-placed little machine. The other 2 machines give you a larger surface for cutting and working with, which is amazing. I feel like if you're doing constant crafting and you have a craft room, the larger machines are definitely a great way to go. However, what if you live in an RV? What if you live in an apartment? What if you have a very small space? What if you're traveling a lot? What if you're a teacher and you want to take your projects with you to the classroom? Well, this is where the Cricut Joy comes in handy, and this is perfect if you're doing smaller projects around the home. Let's take a look at it. So as you can see, it's a very sleek design. You might mistake it for something such as a speaker. This is the back end of it. So there is only one area in the back that you plug into on the bottom here, and it has no buttons on it. There's just a little light on the top that tells you that it turns on. And you can open the little door here, and as you can see, it has the same kind of setup as the other 2. However, it is a single insert here. So what do you do with this single insert? There's the little tiny blade that it comes with, and it is much smaller than the other blades. This one is just a huge reduction in size. Also, you can use specialized pens to go in this, so you still get the same functionality of the Explorer Air 2 and the Maker with being able to draw or write. However, you just change it out. So if you're working on a project you want to draw, you insert the pen, and if you want to cut, then you insert your little fine point blade for the Joy. And then all you have to do is just insert it like this, and then close it, and it's very easy to work with. The Joy has specialty pens for size. They are smaller than the other pens, and something that's a little bit easier for this one versus the other machines is that you can just drop this in. So the other ones you have to push down. This one you just drop in and close. It's so easy to use. It is a very small system as far as the little mat cutting size here. So the mat is much smaller. I believe it's a 4.5 or 4.25 inch mat in width, or you can use a specialty material called their smart system. So they have different materials that do not require using one of the mats, and I can show you the mats here. So we're talking about the differences in the mat sizes between them. This is the standard mat that you would use for the Maker or the Explorer 2. It's a 12 by 12 inch mat. On the Joy, it comes standard with this little tiny mat. This is the 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch mat, and you can use this for the same materials that you would use for the Explorer Air 2 or the Maker. If you want to use a specialty mat, you can also use the card mat, and this is a specialty purchase you can make for the Maker. It's only $6, I believe, on Cricut's website, but it makes it really fast for you to make cards. If you're not using one of the mats, you can use the specialty materials such as Smart Vinyl, Smart Iron-On, and all you have to do is just feed it straight into the machine. It's a really great feature. So you don't have to worry about cutting everything specifically. You can just feed the roll into there and it will cut straight from the roll, and it will cut the exact amount that you need. So it's really, really handy for that. You don't have to worry about fiddling with it. So this is a perfect machine if you're a beginner and you're just getting started and you want to make something very easy to work with. This is great for making labels and smaller projects. Cricut made it that this design is so that it's in the same size as what the most commonly used projects were in. So most people, when they're crafting, create projects within this size. So they wanted to make something that fit within that size range that most people are using it for, and that had more features to make it easier. So this can also cut up to 4-foot sections. So it's a 4-foot section by this length. So 4 feet long by the width here, and you can cut up to 20 foot long into repeating sections. So this is great if you want to make something like a wall border, if you're making signs, if you're making t-shirts, if you're making, just about anything you can think of that is a smaller project. I use this all the time for making labels. I use it to make cards. I use it to make small t-shirts. Just a ton of different functionalities within this tiny little machine. This one only works with 50 different materials, but they are the most commonly used materials from Cricut. So Cricut took the materials that it knew that people used the most often, with the size that they knew people used most often, and tried to make this as easy to use and functional. And you can take this one with you on the go. It fits inside a tiny little bag. So I find this one to be a really great machine, especially for children if they want to start crafting with, a little bit more advanced of a machine. I find that teachers like this, anybody who lives on the go or who's busy and wants to craft with friends, you want to take something with you, this is a great machine for that. And it weighs very little. It's all contained within this, so you can just take this with you, put it in your little tote bag, about the size of a medium purse, and a few supplies, and you're ready to go. So let's talk about which one I would recommend for your needs. Between the three of them, there is some differences in the price point. The $179.99 for the Joy, the $249.99 for the Explorer 2, or the $399 for the Maker. So which one would I recommend for you? Well, if you are someone who likes to be on the go, you have a very small crafting space, you find yourself wanting to organize and do little projects here and there, such as adding a vinyl decal or customizing a gift or something like that, then I would recommend the Cricut Joy. I think that this one is really fun to work with. It's great if you're a beginner, and it is just really, really fun. I find this one of the most fun ones, especially if I'm making a very quick project. It's also great if you like making cards. That's one reason that I use it a lot. The Explorer 2, if you are on a budget and you're looking for something that gives you a ton of features and functionality, or you're starting your own business, I would recommend the Explorer 2. This is the one that I see most business people choosing, and the reason for that is that you have the same functionality for a ton of different materials, especially the most common materials that you want to work with, which is vinyl, cardstock, paper crafting, iron-on projects. This works with all of those, and it's a very reasonable price point, and it's often on sale as well. Check out the links below in case you're interested. And I find that it has, it's a workhorse. It does a lot of different things. at a really great reasonable price point. The Maker is the one that I recommend if you're like me and you're really into crafting, you're building your craft studio and you want to make something that has the most options. This is the best one to choose. I would say if you like engraving, if you want to cut out using all sorts of materials, if you want to try all the projects, all the things, you don't have a very specific crafting profile, this is a great one. If you're into sewing, you're into quilting, this is perfect because it works with fabric. It can draw on the fabric the guidelines in case you're making a pattern and you want to be able to see the guidelines on it. So it makes it a lot easier to do anything sewing related as well. And it's a really amazing machine if you're into advanced paper crafting. All the extra tools and materials with paper crafting come with this style of machine. So you can buy separate tips and tools that you can use to just make it so much easier for paper crafting. So if you want to have customized borders, if you want to have tearaway pages, if you want to make little accents that really amp up the level of your work, this is an amazing machine for it. There are, differences in price point, so I would always factor that in. What is your lifestyle for crafting? Are you a hobby crafter? Are you new? Are you someone who wants to really invest that kind of money? For me, I would say, the Maker is amazing. I totally love it. But if you are mostly interested in vinyl and paper crafting, then I would pick up the Explore Air too. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the Cricut machines. I find that they're amazing and there's always something fun to learn about them and to use them for crafting. If you haven't yet, check out the links below. All of my links are affiliate links and they give you information for coupon codes and ways to save extra money. If you haven't yet, check out the cards listed above and it will lead you to a playlist filled with different tutorials related to everything Cricut, as well as some cool DIY ideas using Dollar Tree items. And that's it. So I hope you guys are having a great day and I'll see you guys later. Bye!